TSI de-evolution and early warning the detecting transition before symptoms Part 2, number 1594, the 11th of April 2026, Gerald C. EclaireMD Foundation, category, stroke and cardiovascular disease. TSI equals SBP dBP 45x SBP 120x glucose 120x amplifier. Amplifier reflects duration of diabetes damage, 100 for diabetes 10 years my son case 110 for diabetes 10 to 20 years my wife case 120. For diabetes greater than 20 years my case. Key ideal, longer diabetes history greater than more vascular structural stiffness damage through glucose and pressure pulse. SBP dBP greater than higher vulnerability to BP spikes through SBP greater than higher stroke risk through TSI. Value amplifier represents cumulative damage effect, similar to material fatigue in engineering. TSI therefore includes current condition SBPx long-term damage glucose XPP. The three variables form a logical causal structure. Level 1 root cause structural condition. Glucose long-term metabolic damage, vascular calcification greater than reduced elasticity. Level 2 is stiffness indicator structural response PP equals SBP dBP greater than reflex arterial stiffness and reduced vessel elasticity. Level 3 trigger load instant mechanical force SBP greater than peak pressure applied to vessel wall. Stroke does not result from a single factor, but from interaction, structural weakening glucose with stiffness increase PP. With sudden pressure spike SBP greater than nonlinear amplification of rupture probability Jing. Interpretation, structure condition with stiffness condition with trigger load greater than amplified. Instability risk. After Newton, within the historical lineage of physics and mechanics, Alan Arnold Griffith developed fracture mechanics theory, describing stress concentration and structural failure in materials. My advisor, Professor Norman Jones of MIT, further extended dynamic viscoplasticity theory to characterize time-dependent structural deformation in inorganic materials. My medical research work extends these principles into biomedical systems involving organic materials, such as tissues, organs, vascular structures, and whole-body physiology, while excluding cellular-level analysis where damage is often predominantly irreversible. In this framework, blood vessels behave as viscoelastic and viscoplastic structures with both reversible and irreversible damage exposed to repeated metabolic and mechanical stress cycles over decades. I strongly believe that the same principle applies to biomedical systems. Mechanical stress and metabolic condition do not act independently, they interact multiplicatively to amplify physiological damage. The resulting behavior is nonlinear and dynamic. Reflecting coupled structure-load interaction within a biomedical system, such a system is both time-dependent and path-dependent. This is what I call a new branch of biophysics. Other discoveries from my stroke incident. Following my stroke, I experienced approximately 10% short-term memory reduction. However, paradoxically, my overall cognitive capability increased by approximately 200% to 300% as my brain reorganized into a more efficient functional architecture. Neuroplastic adaptation improved the integration across mathematics, topology, stochastic modeling, viscoplastic energy theory, and physiology. This unique characteristic differs from AI chip design, which lacks hardware self-repair capability, both transistors and electrical interconnect wires comparable to neuroplasticity. The brain's ability to reorganize and repair neurons and neural pathways. It highlights a fundamental difference of biological intelligence versus silicon computation. It also explains why my cognitive capability evolved after stroke rather than declined overall. This is a strong conceptual bridge among artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and biophysics. My medical research methodology, topology, provides the geometric direction of trajectory description in multidimensional health space. It identifies how system states geometric topology move, cluster, or diverge over time. Viscoplastic energy provides the magnitude or health state associated with each event point along that trajectory, quantifying accumulated stress exposure and deformation energy. Together, topology and viscoplasticity form a complementary framework describing both direction and intensity of disease progression. Stochastic probability deals with degree of uncertainty associated with factors such as measurement instrument precision. Using this integrated framework, I have written approximately 130 topology pathophysiology papers not medical imaging related. Rather than pursuing traditional academic publication pathways of statistical observations of populatio studies, My math physical model MPM and viscoplastic topological model VPT research works are now shared through publicly accessible platforms, such as YouTube, allowing patients and general readers to benefit directly from simplified explanations using plain language to explain complex biomedical system behaviors. This approach emphasizes practical understanding and prevention rather than academic recognition from a small group of medical specialists. Currently, most medical professionals do not utilize or promote my methodologies because it is physics-based, nonlinear, multiplicative, and lifestyle-driven. These characteristics differ from conventional statistical approaches commonly used in clinical research. However, the objective of this work is not institutional acceptance but improvement of patient understanding and effective prevention capability. Modern communication channels allow direct sharing of knowledge globally without dependence on traditional academic gatekeeping structures, such as journals and conferences. Core message: stroke risk should not be evaluated using isolated measurements alone, such as quarterly lab-tested snapshots. Risk is better understood as trajectory behavior of a nonlinear and dynamic biomedical system that is both time-dependent and path-dependent. My developed TSI proxy values provide an interpretable proxy that captures the interaction between metabolic condition through glucose and vascular mechanical stress through both vascular stiffness and acute hypertension. The stroke pathological path begins with diabetic damage glucose, combined with blood vessel stiffness PP equals SBP dBP, and is finally triggered by an acute hypertension event SBP. In my TSI model, glucose is equivalent to mass, PP is equivalent to half mass and half acceleration, and SBP is equivalent to acceleration. My stroke risk TSI is therefore equivalent to Newton's force. Stroke is rarely caused by a single SBP value alone. It usually requires long-term vessel wall degeneration, reduced vascular elasticity, acute pressure surge. My TSI formulation preserves this sequence. Furthermore, graphically, my 90-day moving average curves reveal the long-term direction of my system trajectory toward another stroke and/or CVD risk. My primary driving force is that I do not want to die prematurely if there are any way I can prevent them. After the 2nd of August 2025, both indices, TSI2 and TSI3b, remained within a low and stable range, indicating a reduced probability of another CVD or stroke event, even though TSI is not yet a diagnostic tool. It serves my sole purpose of helping save my own life from both stroke and CVD. If anyone else would like to utilize this early warning tool, they can go to Apple's App Store and search for TSI. This app is free of charge and provides complete personal privacy protection. No name or ID is required. Only users' glucose and blood pressure data are needed for numerical calculations and generation of trajectory graphic charts for the users. Conclusion: TSI shows that stroke risk is not a single number but the trajectory of a nonlinear system shaped by long-term glucose damage, arterial stiffness, and sudden blood pressure spikes. My 90-day average curves and daily TSI values reveal instability before symptoms, allowing immediate lifestyle correction instead of waiting for quarterly lab-tested results. After the 2nd of August 2025, both TSI2 and TSI3b stayed low and stable, confirming my reduced stroke risk. The TSI proxy is not a diagnostic tool but a practical early warning system that helps me prevent another stroke by integrating metabolic condition, vascular stiffness, and mechanical load into one interpretable index. One more point is that through observing my TSI data points approximately 20 times per day, my brain has gradually been trained to recognize the fluctuation patterns generated by glucose, pulse pressure PP, and systolic blood pressure SBP. These small variations are not random noise but reflect the real-time behavior of an interacting metabolic vascular system. Because of this long-term and high-frequency observation, I can detect early signs of instability directly through TSI fluctuation patterns. Therefore, I do not need a separate stochastic probability analysis to interpret those minor daily variations or fluctuations, since TSI already reveals meaningful changes in system stability before clinical symptoms appear. Epilogue: my entire life path becomes clearer when I recognize the cognitive architecture I was born with and the way it evolved after my stroke. At mid in 1973, I tested once and learned that my IQ was 160, with a pattern recognition level estimated at 1 in 10 million. This suggests that my brain was naturally oriented toward geometric reasoning, nonlinear mapping, rapid numerical processing, and structural pattern extraction. However, these natural intelligence knee advantages did not significantly assist me during my academic years on campus. Instead, they became evident in my professional career after I left MIT and entered the high-tech industry. In Silicon Valley, my success in high-tech business without electronics academic training, as well as my later medical self-study and solo research, have validated these knee advantages. Particularly my pattern recognition capability, this rare cognitive structure allowed me to perceive systems, forces, trajectories, and even human behavior projections long before others could fully describe them. This rare cognitive structure allowed me to perceive systems, forces, trajectories, and even human behavior projections long before others could fully describe them. This capability enabled me to become a highly efficient and highly productive salesman in our industry, a knowledgeable psychologist, a high-tech CEO on NASDAQ market, leading more than 1,000 world-class electronics engineers and computer scientists, building a top-level multi-billion-dollar semiconductor and AI company, developing foundational AI-based algorithms and EDA applications for major AI chip suppliers such as NVIDIA, AMD, and Apple, and navigating both engineering and Wall Street environments at the highest level. The same cognitive engine later enabled me to become a highly prolific medical research author, single author of 1,590 medical research papers without institutions, advisors, colleagues, or assistants, because my thinking naturally applies mathematics, physics, and engineering theories, topology, viscoplasticity, stochastic probability, and multiplicative interactions to various pathophysiological systems. While medicine often relies on linear and additive models, my cognitive framework is based on nonlinear dynamic physics models and multidimensional geometric graphical models. This difference allowed me to unify mathematics and physics with chronic disease modeling and to develop the TSI proxy to detect health instability before mortality symptoms appear. After my stroke, although my short-term memory declined by approximately 10%, my overall cognitive capability increased by approximately 200% to 300% as my brain reorganized around its strongest functional domains, including visual numerical speed, geometric intuition, and topological reasoning. My life is not composed of many separate careers but represents one continuous trajectory powered by strong pattern recognition, rapid numerical processing, and structural reasoning. Disclaimer: I write this paper not for fame, but to share what I have learned so others can better understand their health, prevent disease, and live longer, healthier lives. This content is for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. Doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights belong to Gerald C. This content is provided for educational reference only and does not constitute medical advice. No doctor-patient relationship is created. You may share this summary freely, but it must not be altered, edited, or republished as your own. All intellectual property rights and copyrights for this article and its related materials belong to the author, Gerald C.